Hello, welcome back to the Dodge 47RE valve body series. Today we're going to focus on assembling the valve body as it was, completely stock, no kind of correction or hydraulic improvement kits, shift kits, or what have you, just as the valve body came with the transmission from the factory. And the reason why I do this is to establish a baseline. That will let me know where the areas of weakness are, and from a diagnostic perspective, perhaps help me explain some drivability symptoms or problems that were reported when the transmission was in the vehicle was on the road. So the other reason I like to do this is to obviously determine specifically what valves and or valve trains are not sealing as well as they should, so that I know what my what my next steps are going to be when it comes to correction or remediation. Sonics and Transgo, as well as central valve bodies, and I believe Superior Tech as well, make drop-in valves and or plugs or other parts designed specifically to recondition these valve bodies without any kind of machine work or reaming or what have you. So most of the common areas of wear when it comes to the what I'll call the 40 series transmissions for Chrysler Dodge, the aftermarket has fixes for. So the Sonic Zip Kit comes with a whole host of drop-in valves, as well as plugs and other things to help recondition the valve body so that you can put it back on the road. And the same with the Transgo Repro Kit. They're roughly the same price. They have roughly the same the same parts, and kind of apply the same general approach to remediating the hydraulics in these transmissions. The other thing you want to be mindful of is the spacer plate. Sometimes you'll have wear in the check ball seating locations, like we see here. So Transgo makes plates for these transmissions. There's a few different versions. I want to say there's 4 different variations of plate, and that's going to be based on what specific vintage of 46 or 47 RE that you have. Central valve bodies also has an entire kit that will allow you to convert a 47 RE valve body to a 48 RE valve body. That includes a billet transfer plate, spacer plates, and a few other things such as valves that basically allow you to turn your stock 47 RE valve body into a 48 RE valve body when it comes to performance, line pressure characteristics, and all that good stuff. So all those options are on the table. I haven't figured out yet what I'm going to do when it comes to hydraulic improvement, correction, or what have you, maybe a combination of things. But I want to put this valve body back together in terms of the individual housings and do some vacuum testing so I can see what I'm up against. So that's what we're going to do today. Alright, we're at the vac test station. We have both castings, upper and lower, all assembled, ready to go. And what I've done is kind of indicated with a red Sharpie everywhere that we need to test. So this is going to be our upper valve body, and then this is going to be our lower valve body. The preponderance of testing is in the upper valve body. There's 4 locations we'll need to test in the lower valve body. Alright, I also have the pump stator support on the bench as well, and I'll explain why once we're done with the testing, and then we'll kind of wrap up from there for this particular section of the 47RE valve body rebuild series. So a couple quick things. First, here are Sonic's vacuum test instructions. So you have the lower and the upper valve body and all the different locations that they want you to test, as well as all the different drivability symptoms associated with each valve or each hydraulic circuit. So if we uncover sealing integrity issues, in other words, insufficient vacuum, then that would help explain some of the drivability symptoms, possibly, depending on exactly where they are. Where we'll pay close attention to is going to be, well, frankly, quite a few valves. The 4-spool switch valve, it's known to be worn. Same with the main pressure regulator valve. You also have your 1-2 and your 2-3 shift valves. The governor plugs are also known to wear. And so these are all areas that we'll want to pay close attention to. And that's basically the entire upper valve body for the most part. I mean, you can have wear too in the throttle and kickdown valves. And then in the lower valve body, where you might see some wear, or where it's more prevalent, is going to be in these two torque converter clutch valves. So you have the TCC timing valve and the TCC apply or control valve. So anyway, I'm going to record all my results on this template that I put together. Makes it nice and easy, and then I will give a copy with all the values and results typed in to the customer for his or her records. Alright, so before you can begin the testing, you're going to want to calibrate the machine itself. So here we have the Sonic's vac tester, and then of course an air pump. The air pump you buy separately, and when you pull these things out of the box, they're going to be way out of calibration. So in order to calibrate it, it's a very simple process. All you're going to do, once you have your hoses set up in their respective fittings, you're going to take the hose coming out of the test port or test fitting, and you're going to insert it into the calibration receptacle here. Alright, just like that. Make sure that it's fully seated into that receptacle. Then what you're going to do is you're going to turn on the machine, and you want to see a steady 5 inches of lift on the gauge. More than likely you're going to be somewhere between 0 and 10 if it's fresh out of the box. If it's not, and you've used it recently, it'll likely be either a little bit above 5 or a little bit below 5. Okay, you have two valves here. You have your pump valve and your bleeder valve. The pump valve will be used to dial in this, this reading here, so that you can get it to 5 inches of lift. And then from there, what you're going to do is you're going to come over here with a finger, and you're going to plug the calibration port that's on the right side of the the block here, and that will cause the needle to jump way up. All right, because there you have full vacuum. You want to see a steady reading at 25 inches of lift when you put your finger over that calibration port and plug it. Again, out of the box, it's going to read somewhere between 20 and 30. If you recently used it, it'll just be in the neighborhood of 25, probably very close to it, or even exactly. But the main message here is that this machine has to be calibrated before every use, because even if you calibrated it and you used it maybe a day or 2 days or whatever, even earlier in the day, chances are it's going to drift a little bit once you go to use it again. I mean, I see it all the time. I use this machine constantly. So always calibrate the machine before each use. So we'll do that now. Alright, so it looks like I am right on 5 inches of lift. And that's where you want to see it. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and put a finger right at 25 inches. 5 inches, 25 inches. So if you have to make adjustments for the pump valve to increase the amount of vacuum, you're going to turn the knob counterclockwise. To decrease it, you're going to turn it clockwise. The bleeder valve is the exact opposite. So these two knobs here will have you dial it in. Once it's fully calibrated, which this machine is, you can take your test hose out of the calibration receptacle and stick it back in the test block. Alright, now it's ready to go. Alright, so we're going to start off with the upper valve body, and I'll begin with the 4-spool switch valve. Okay, it's going to be this area here, and then we'll just go left to right until we're all done. Alright, put everything in the shot so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so this side here represents outboard, this is inboard. So this would be outboard on the pressure regulator valve. This would be the inboardmost location on the PR valve. Then you have your line pressure valve and your plug. So that's these two locations here. So, and then you have your throttle valve and your kickdown and then of course your 1-2 governor. This is really the only position you're testing on the 1-2 valve train, and then you have your 2-3, so you have your 2-3 plug and your 2-3 valve. Alright, before we begin, to test this inboard most circuit here for the 4-spool switch valve, we need to put our finger here on the inboard portion of the limit valve circuit or TCC boost. Otherwise we're not going to draw a vacuum. And we're going to have to do the same thing when we go to test this circuit. We need to put our finger over this circuit. So 15 to 20 inches, that's what we're looking for on all working valves. For anything static like a ceiling plug, I like to see a minimum of 18 to 20, minimum. I'll get my finger in position. Now it looks like I'm at 20, maybe 20 and a half. Close to 21. Alright, next, it's going to be the rectangular cutout immediately outboard of it. So it looks like 16. And then the next cutout above it. So 16 apiece. Now our outboard most location. And that looks like 16 and a quarter, so I'm going to record it as 16. Alright, so now we have the pressure regulator valve. So we have here, 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 here. And then for our line pressure valve we have here, and the plug we have here. Okay, this looks like it's giving us 6. I mean, that's 6. It's like 6 and a quarter, but I'm going to record 6. And that's outboard most. And that is kind of weak. Okay, next, we're going to test here. That's given us 13. Next is going to be our center spool, or center location. That's given us 15 and a half. Alright, now we have these last two. Okay, 17. And then the inboard most location for the pressure regulator valve circuit's right here in this narrow rectangle. That's 17 as well. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and test the inboard section, or circuit rather, of the line pressure valve. Alright, that's strong at 21. Alright, then lastly we have the bore plug and sleeve. So the bore plug or bushing, and then the sleeve, or excuse me, the little valve inboard of that is what we're testing here. And that's 22. Alright, now we have our throttle valve. So there's a couple things we need to do. We need to make sure that the valve is centered, okay, for this test and for this test. Alright, it's giving us 10.5. And this is outboard. Alright, next is going to be this center section. Alright, it's giving us 10. Okay, next thing we need to do is center the valve, the spool of the valve, I should say, like that. Now we want the spool centered, just like that. You can just put your gasket right over the check ball location. That's giving us 10 inches. Okay, we don't test the manual valve though. Sonics and I think Transgo give you a manual valve in their, repro kit and or zip kit. So Transgo's the repro kit or reprogramming kit. Sonics has the zip kit. So next thing we're going to test is going to be our 1-2 governor plug. That's going to be this location right here. Alright, it's giving us 5 inches. Alright, that's horrible. Alright, your 2-3 plug is going to be in this cutout right here. Okay, you have 2 of them. You're going to test this cutout on the right hand side. That's giving us 8 inches. Not very good. So now you have this location and this location for your inboard plug and then your valve. Okay, inboard's sealing a little bit better, but it's still relatively weak at 13. It's still below my 15 inches standard. So let's see how the valve does. And it looks like that's giving us the same. Yep, exactly the same. Okay, so here are the results for the upper valve body. Ended up recording 21 on that first test on the switch valve. But as you can see, things look good until this interior land, then it gets a little weak, then it gets a real weak, and then things look okay, then they start to deteriorate again, and we really never get back to our 15-inch threshold. So a lot of remediation, if you will, needs to be done with the upper valve body. Okay, while I'm at it, I'm just going to test the limit valve housing. So again, you want to put a finger right over that inboardmost circuit for your 4-spool switch valve here in this rectangular cutout, and that will allow you to test the inboard portion of the TCC boost. Alright, we are at, looks like 16 and a half. Okay, next is going to be this location right here. Okay, that's 18, that's strong. Alright, so that is our testing for the upper valve body. So a fair amount of work to do. And unfortunately, that's all too common with these. I imagine I'll see a similar pattern with the lower valve body. I mean, we'll find out in a couple minutes, but these valve bodies get worn out. After about, I don't know, 80 to 100,000 miles on diesels and heavy duty working, towing, hauling, there's a decent amount of wear in the hydraulic circuitry. Okay, lower valve body. So here is going to be your 3/4 quick fill valve, your 3/4 timing valve. It's right here. When you test the 3/4 quick fill, you're going to test it here in this roughly L-shaped port. I guess it almost looks like a lounge chair. But what you need to do is stick a finger over this orifice here to plug it so that you can get a reading. Then you're going to come over to the TCC valve trains. This is going to be your TCC apply valve, and this is your TCC timing valve. And they have one large contiguous circuit, and you're going to test them simultaneously. Okay? At least that's what Sonics has you do. Now what I'm going to do is when I'm testing, or after I'm testing the circuits at the same time, I'm going to put a little bit of Fun-Tac putty right here. And I'm going to seal off this circuit and isolate it from this one so that I can test them individually and independently and see if one is weaker than the other or if they're about the same. Alright, we'll start with the 3/4 timing and then move to the quick fill and then go from there. Alright, looks like 19. Alright, now the 3/4 quick fill. Alright, we got no vacuum. Now we got 20.5 inches. Alright, now we're going to test these two TCC circuits at the same time. So this right in here. It's like 10. So I recorded 10 in each of those circuits on my test sheet. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some fun tack. I'm going to stick it right here, and I'm going to see if there's any difference between the sealing integrity here versus the timing valve. Alright, so this is Loctite Fun Tack. Comes in strips of little putty, and I like this stuff because it generally doesn't stick real bad to the castings. I mean, if it's real hot out like it is right now, it'll get a little bit sticky, and it'll take a few extra minutes to get rid of all of it, but for the most part it's pretty cooperative and it's fairly easy to work with. So all I want to do is stick it in here. I want to make sure I have a complete seal in this cavity so that there's no cross leakage, so to speak, and I can determine if I have one valve a little bit more worn out than the other. 10 inches is not acceptable for either of these valves, so we're gonna have to see what the aftermarket has available in terms of correction or reconditioning valves or products that can straighten this out. So we'll see which one of these is bad, or maybe it's both of them. Alright, TCC apply is giving us 10 inches. I will do it again. 10 inches. Alright, now we'll test the timing valve. If I can get the little gasket off of the casting. That's going to be right here. Ten and a half. Okay, so both of these valves are no good. So we have areas of serious impairment in both the upper and the lower valve body. As you can see, it's kind of sticky. It's relatively uncooperative in the hot months compared to the cold months. So it takes a few extra minutes to clean it off. I mean, no big deal, but you want to make sure you get all of it. Some in the groove still, so get rid of that. So the bottom line here is that both upper and lower housing or casting need work. And for the upper housing, I believe that I have what I need for the most part, but for the lower housing, I'm not too sure about what's available for the TCC timing and apply. Alright, so let's talk about the pump, specifically the stator and stator support. So what I primarily want to bring to your attention, if you're not already aware, is the potential for this surface to be warped, especially in this location here where you have your feeds. And what will happen is if this becomes warped, you'll have cross leaks between these three circuits. So your converter charge or routing to and from the torque converter specifically the converter clutch, can cross leak into the direct circuit, causing fluid to exchange when that's not supposed to happen. And that is because this area in here is warped. So what you could do one of two things, I guess. You could take a straight edge and the thinnest feeler gauge you have, something like 1/1000th of an inch, or if you have one a half a thou, and you could stick the feeler gauge on, or I should say you could stick the straight edge over this area and see if you can fit the feeler gauge underneath. If you can at all, then this will need to be resurfaced. The other option is to take the straight edge and use a flashlight and shine the light at the bottom of the straight edge and look at eye level to see if any light is peeking through. Same deal. If you see daylight, so to speak, then you'll need to resurface this. So I'm partial to the flashlight method because it's a lot easier, and most everybody is not going to have super thin feeler gauges that otherwise would be necessary to do what I'm describing. The light is a lot easier. So I'm going to check it real quick myself, and then I'll change the camera angle so that we can do the check and you can watch. Because I actually haven't done this yet, so I want to see if I have any problems here. Alright, now let me go ahead and adjust the camera so you can see what I'm doing. Alright, see any flashlight coming through? I'll move it a little closer. Alright, I don't see any light. And you can check here as well for, this is going to be pump suction and pressure. So you obviously don't want any problems in this location either. Alright, ignore the light that you see here. That's going to be your, one of your circuits. Okay, this surface appears to be in good shape. Alright, and then the rest of the stator, you want to replace this bushing. You want to check inside here for where the sealing rings go. So you have a sealing ring surface here, and you have a sealing ring surface here. Okay, if you could feel any kind of grooves, then you'll want to replace the stator. Check bushing, not bushing, check journal, where the bushing goes. Okay, both surfaces. And then just check the structure. Check your splines. Okay, all the obvious stuff. The main thing I wanted to point out was the potential for warpage here in the working surface. That can really throw a lot of curveballs at you when it comes to symptoms if this surface goes back in warped. Okay, let's go ahead and summarize. Let me reposition the camera and we'll just take a look at the results real quick and then we'll close out. Okay, here's what we have. So, as we go down the list, keeping in mind we have our standard of 15, max of 20, but if you have 21, that's not a big deal. 22 is even okay. If you have 23 or above, then that tells me the valve's a little tight, so you want to polish the board there with bench buddies until you get to, say, 20. Somewhere between 15 and 20 is going to be like your ideal spec range for sealing readouts on these valves as far as vacuum is concerned. So the switch valve's in good shape. So 21 and then 16, 16 and 16. And then the pressure regulator valve is okay until you get to the midsection. Then you got 13, that's no good. And then, outbound. And then you have 6 on that outbound location. So inboard it's fine. Outbound is 6. That's no good, so we would see this as a fail. And 13 for the inboard lane, I'm going to call that a fail as well. This is a very heavy duty diesel application, so we want minimum of 15. So now we get to the line pressure valve and plug. Those are in good shape. So then we have our throttle valve, so throttle and kick down. Basically a failure all across the board. And again, my handwriting is absolutely horrible. 1, 2, and 2, 3 governor plugs are no good. And then our 2, 3 shift valve inboard and outboard, this is actually technically the inboard portion of the governor plug, but we're also testing the outboard portion of the shift valve, so however you want to say it. Just wanted to clarify that because the label isn't real clear. Again, because this is heavy duty, we're only at 13, we want to be at 15, minimum. Okay, limit housing, I'll jump down here because it's technically part of the upper valve body. So these two look good. So our 3/4 timing and 3/4 quick fill are in good shape, but we have issues with the TCC valves. So that valve body needs a lot of work, and that is what I typically see when it comes to these valve bodies, especially in the diesels, 46, 47s, 48 REs. After they, pile up more than about 125, 130,000 miles, you start to see weakness. But in the diesels, I see it earlier. 47 RE diesel, 48 RE, I see them weak as little as 70, 75,000 miles. And so Transgo, Sonic, Central Valve Bodies, Superior Technologies, or maybe one or two others, they all make reconditioning drop-in style valves that are slightly oversized that will remediate most of the bores in these valve bodies so that you can reuse them. I don't know if they make, any one of them make a TCC timing and apply valve kit. If they don't, then I'm going to just purchase a reman valve body, because that's really the only other option I have at this point. If I can't use the individual valves and things like the zip kit or Transgo reprogramming kit, or whatever else might be out there. So anyway, that is valve body testing. At this point, I do not know what I'm going to do. I gotta research and see if there's anything for those TCC valves available. If not, the next video is going to be me talking about the Sonic's remanufactured valve body for these transmissions. Alright, as always, thanks so much for watching. Look forward to catch you on part 3. And if you haven't seen the teardown inspection or autopsy video for this transmission, check that out. Had a couple different drivability symptoms that thus far, up until this testing, we've not been able to explain. So we're really poorly sealing 1-2 governor plug, as well as weak TCC valves. We're starting to get a little bit better of an understanding of why that thing had slippage in second and fourth gear, or otherwise shifting anomalies. So, yep, getting closer to identifying a root cause when it comes to explaining those symptoms. Alright, thanks again. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions, comments, go ahead and leave them below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can.